Welcome to the Startempire Wire Founders Podcast, where we make entrepreneurial founders a top priority. Each episode features risk takers, business builders, community shapers, institutional and government supporters in our local startup ecosystem. Tune in weekly to hear all about what's happening with the movers and the shakers of Southern California's Inland Empire and beyond. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Founders Podcast. Today, I have with me Zac Dobbin of Southern California Energy Innovation Network and Cleantech San Diego. We're not going to extend the time any much longer. We're going to let Zac get in and give us a little bit of an introduction of himself. Who are you, Zac, and why should people know you?
Well, first and foremost, Various, thanks so much for having me on the podcast today. I'm a big fan. Love watching, my LinkedIn newsfeed when a new video pops up, and the interviews have been great thus far. So real honor to be on here and appreciate you having me on. Like you mentioned, Zac Dobbin, Program Director of the Southern California Energy Innovation Network, or SCEIN for short, which is an initiative of Cleantech San Diego. And I'll get a little bit more into that later, but yeah, it's actually, it's really interesting kind of my story on how I became program director. I'm actually from the East Coast of Canada originally, a small island called Newfoundland and Labrador. And I came down to San Diego to do business school. I never really had any intention of sticking around, but kind of really fell in love with Southern California and all that it had to offer. When I got out of university, I was working with the Port of San Diego. And at the time they have, and they still do have what's called a blue economy incubator that helps blue tech companies, ocean tech companies, deploy their technologies and helps them with the permitting process as well.
Nice.
Unfortunately, when the pandemic hit, like so many other organizations, the port had some difficult decisions to make. And because the Port of San Diego has, a lot of their revenue or a lot of their funding comes from the hotels and the various other tenants that they have on their, on their jurisdiction, they let go all of the part-time staff, which included me as well. But I was really lucky because someone from the port, maybe a week after had emailed me about this opportunity with an organization called Cleantech San Diego. And to run something called the Southern California Energy Innovation Network. Anyways, I interviewed and here we are, 3 years later.
It's freaking crazy. 3 years,
yeah.
Man, it don't even seem like no 3 years. You telling me really COVID happened 3 years ago? It's crazy.
Maybe two and a half,
two and a half. But man, that's a great kind of like segue into your new opportunity. That's really cool. So working with SCEIN, or Southern California Energy Innovation Network, what has been the thing that you love about that now?
It's all that I'm always learning, right? So, I don't have an engineering background. My two colleagues, Marty Turok, who's the director and kind of the founder of the program, if you will, and my other colleague, Natalie, who we hired just over a year and a half ago, are engineers. I come from a business background, a bit of a finance background. So for me, just learning about different battery chemistries, learning about, the difference between a kilowatt and a kilowatt hour. It was a steep learning curve, but I loved it, right? Like I'm a naturally curious person. So when I hear of, new technologies coming out, whether it be, green hydrogen production or direct air carbon capture, I just find it fascinating. And, this job, not only requires that I learn a lot about, clean tech and really kind of the engineering and the chemistry behind it, and to understand how that, impacts the business financially, but also it allows me the opportunity to just kind of widen my knowledge base of what's going on in terms of overall innovation in the sector.
I love that. So there's so much about clean tech that it's just breakthrough now. It's new stuff, that new discoveries. Tell us a little bit about, the program and what it means to be a member of Southern California Energy Innovation Network, and how does that work?
Yeah, sure. So maybe it's helpful if I start off kind of giving you some background on the program and how it
Yeah.
came to be. Um, and that'll give you some insight. But so we started really 6 years ago, and we
Hmm.
were really lucky. And this is all driven by the California Energy Commission at the state level. They realized that even though we had set some of the most aggressive climate goals through AB 32, which was passed in 2006, that business as usual was not going to get us to our greenhouse gas reduction targets,
Hmm.
right? So what the California Energy Commission did was they created the EPIC program, and what that really did was or the goal of that program, and I think they're achieving it, was to spur innovation and identify technologies that were going to get us to those aggressive targets. The heart of that program was to create 4 innovation clusters across
Right.
the state. So
Okay.
there was one created up in the Bay Area, there was one created in LA, there was one created in Fresno, and there was one created down here in San Diego. And
Okay.
each of the accelerators or the innovation clusters have different territories they cover, right? So for
Okay.
us, it was originally San Diego and Imperial County, but we were really lucky to expand into the Inland Empire about 3 years ago
Mm.
with the help of an EDA grant. So that's kind of our jurisdiction. Um, each of these accelerators, incubators operate very differently, ours included. We don't do kind of your traditional cohort model. What
Hmm.
we do is a rolling based application. And really, we look for companies that are in our jurisdiction or have operations in our jurisdiction, and that ultimately provide a or a potential benefit to California ratepayers, right? Because that's really where our
Yes.
funding comes from. So we
Right.
want to make sure that the technologies we're investing in, ultimately help out Californians, right? Um, so when we look to bring companies into our program, some of them come to us through the universities. Some of them we hear about from pitch events, and some of them, just come to us as well. So it's a little bit of inbound, a little bit of outbound.
Okay.
But yeah, and we're also, one thing I love about our program that kind of differentiates us from other accelerators is that we're funding stage agnostic. So, we take in
Oh, that's
companies
good.
that are, anywhere from pre-seed, so, maybe 2 people coming out of a tech transfer office, all the way up to companies that might have already raised a Series A round. And
Nice.
we,
Nice.
as long as we feel that we can derive value for those companies, and I'll get into, how we derive value in a second, then we'll take
Okay.
them into our program. In terms of what technologies we cover, it's really the full gamut, right? So we do everything from renewable energy generation, energy efficiency. The only thing we don't do is EVs. So if you're the next,
Oh,
if you think you're
really?
going to be the next
Oh,
Tesla, or you
dang.
think you're going to be the next Rivian, that's really cool, but our program doesn't support that.
No,
But we
that's
do a lot of stuff.
that, that's that's kind of funny, but I'm sorry to say, EV companies. That's unfortunate.
Yes. Now you can be a Cleantech. If you're an EV company, you can be a Cleantech San Diego member, but it's just
Ah,
not quite right for our program.
right.
And then we do a lot of stuff around microgrids, and then
Yes.
infrastructure for EVs as well. So we have a number of EV charging companies in our program.
Yeah, there's a couple, here in the Inland Empire that is a part of Southern California Energy Innovation Network. We had
Yeah.
Paul
So
Francis
Paul
from Kitchen.
Francis,
He was on
yeah,
one of our previous interviews.
Paul's fantastic. So we've been working. I think Paul's been in the program for 3 or 4 years now,
Nice.
and just to see how much that company has grown. I mean, I'm sure you're aware they just got the $2 million CEC grant,
Yeah, yeah. They're
which
they're
was phenomenal.
they're about to do some
So
really cool stuff. I'm like, that's big.
I
Congratulations
know,
to
and I
him.
think Paul was up at the White House last month. So I mean, just
Wait, were
it's
you there?
it's.
Were you there? Were you at the White House?
No, I did. My invite got lost in the
Okay,
mail, I think. So.
okay. Okay.
But no, just to see, that, and that's one of the most rewarding parts of the job as well, is just seeing, our entrepreneurs when they come into the program to, 2, 3 years later, how much they've advanced, right?
Right.
And that's one of the beauties of our program too, is that, we just don't take in companies and have them in for a year and put them through, the classic cohort modeling, which might be, fundraising 101, IP 101. Like, that's not our style. We realize that every company's needs is completely different. So with that in mind, when we have an intake session for our companies, after we vet the companies, make sure that there is a potential benefit to California ratepayers, we create a completely customized program for them. And there's no time limit on it. As long as the company is deriving value from us, then we'll keep them in the program. And then when they're set to graduate, we'll graduate them.
The Inland Empire startup ecosystem industry is tremendously fragmented. A few top-tier hubs, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego, are well covered by media, events, and data platforms. Finding reliable information relevant to startups or the tech industry in the Inland Empire is extremely difficult. As a result, startups can't scale fast enough. Investors are having a hard time finding the right deals, and corporates can't find the right companies to partner with for their innovation activities. Startempire Wire, the leading Inland Empire startup publication, is providing the Inland Empire startup ecosystem with the most accurate, engaging business and financial data, events, and news. Our reach of entrepreneurs, C-level executives, angels, VC investors, startup employees, key management at innovative corporates, and big tech is the solution for your B2B or B2C needs. As we build out our platform, we're looking for partners. This is your opportunity to get in on the ground level. If you're looking to align yourself with the local and growing startup and tech ecosystem of the Inland Empire, we have created the platform to get your name noticed and the opportunity for you to grow the recognition of your brand. Contact us today for availability and pricing options. We look forward to our partnership with you. Wait, but what's graduation? What means, what are the qualifications for a graduate?
It varies. It might be a significant fundraising event. So I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, just about 2 years ago, one of our companies, Nuvi, which is a vehicle to grid technology, went public on the NASDAQ via a SPAC reverse merger. So at that point in time, you kind of realize, okay, they're a little, the reporting, and given that we're funded by the California Energy Commission, we do have reporting requirements.
Right.
So we kind of say sometimes, when the benefits of the program are outweighed by the reporting requirements, then I think it's time to graduate, right?
Okay. So what are some of those reporting requirements to keep your status up?
Yeah, I mean, it's the key. So it's actually very useful for us because it allows us to track the development of our companies, and then also provide some great value to the CEC as well, right? Okay. So the main things that we do is, we ask them to do monthly reports, and that's mainly just to update us and make sure that we can jump in and help them with anything, that they're working on. Yes. But more importantly, what we do is we do biannual reports to the California Energy Commission.
Okay.
And so for all of our companies, graduates included, we'll collect metrics on, follow-on public funding, follow-on private funding, technology readiness level, how many patents they have, number of employees, C-suite diversity, and that all goes in, we aggregate all that data and then give it in a report to the California Energy Commission and do a review as well. But it's a great way for us to, track our metrics too. So
that's, that's really good.
Yeah. And we just did our last report in July. And happy to announce that our companies, since just being in the SCEIN program, have raised over $300 million in follow-on funding.
Wow.
They have, it's truly wild. When we started this program, we thought, maybe we'll get 5 or 6 companies, but we've had 62 companies go through the program.
Man, that's great.
Not all of them are successful, but we've had a couple companies that dissolved, but that's inevitable with any early stage business, right?
Yeah.
But I'm happy happy to report that we've had just as many graduates as well.
And do you guys make these reports public to the public, or is it just something that you just need to do for the California Energy Commission?
It's something that we have to do for the Energy Commission. Now we are very careful and respectful of our companies and their data, right? Like,
right.
Aside from the public stuff, understanding that, some companies might be going through a fundraise, they might have raised, if they're raising a $5 million round, they might have raised $3 million of it already. We just want to be extra mindful. So the CEC understands that as well. So we reported kind of in aggregate. So we'll get individual company data, but then report the whole number, right?
Yeah,
so,
that's it. I kind of like, that's what I was thinking. Like, okay, do you guys publish anonymized aggregate data? You don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't. But what we will do is, we'll take kind of the high level information and put that out, and we'll always do a press release on that. So, for this last one, we'll say, our companies have now, surpassed $300 million in follow-on funding. Over the last 6 months, they've raised, and this is all accurate data. Over the last 6 months, they've raised over $50 million. And then we've also got over 600 employees across all of our portfolio companies, which is phenomenal. And then this is actually one of my favorite stats, and that's that our companies, across the portfolio of companies, there's 386 patents approved. And that's just patents approved. That's not patents pending. So I love that, because I think it's a great proxy for innovation, right? The California Energy Commission is appreciative of it as well.
Absolutely. When you see a lot of patents coming out like that, a lot of innovation is happening. Okay, right? So if a person is a member company, you give them a customized plan when they become a member of Southern California Energy Innovation Network.
Yeah, that's right. And we really, the way we kind of derive that customized service plan and subsequently the value to our companies is that we do it kind of in a three-pronged approach. So the first one is that, on the actual grant itself, we have subcontractors, or what we call our program partners. And that's a consortium of 9 different groups. It includes all the major universities down here in San Diego, so SDSU, UCSD, Cal State University San Marcos. We also work with UC Riverside in the Inland Empire, which is fantastic. And we kind of have almost like an a la carte menu of services that our organizations can provide. So I'll give you some examples. Some of them might be MBA capstone projects. Some of them might be with engineering departments, and it might be an engineering capstone project that our companies can work with. A lot of it is just kind of one-on-one subject matter expertise from these university professors who have deep insights into the technologies. And then we also do some, policy and regulatory guidance consulting as well through our program partners, which has been, a fantastic service, especially with the Inflation Reduction Act, and a lot of the funding that's come out in that.
No, I'd imagine there's a lot to navigate with the bill that just passed, the Inflation Reduction Act, for a lot of these companies. How are you guys helping them? Is it through your which partner is that again?
Yeah, so we work with a great group out of the University of San Diego under their law department. It's called the Energy Policy Initiative Center. And they are wizards when it comes to just policy analysis, greenhouse gas modeling, and really what they've been doing for our companies is helping them digest this massive document and understanding how policy and all these different tax credits, for home electrification, for EVs, for solar, how it can affect the actual business models, right? Because what's really interesting about the cleantech industry or cleantech innovation is that a lot of it is driven by policy, right? Compared with other verticals like software or even life sciences. So for a company, especially an early stage company too, when you're pitching to investors or when you're looking for investment, to understand how policy affects your unit economics is so important. And just understanding what the business case is there for potential investors, and that there's tax equity available is huge, right?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're providing this valuable service to these entrepreneurs who who really could use it. And I mean, as a startup, you're not always aware of all of the tools at your disposal. So, especially in clean tech, like you said, it's mostly policy driven. And what are some of the specifics that maybe some companies who are in clean tech don't know about the Inflation Reduction Act? What are some of those specific things they should navigate and kind of just be aware of?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a lot, a lot of the way of the Inflation Reduction Act, and I'm not a policy expert by any means. This is kind of just my understanding. Let me preface it. But a lot of it is, the tax credits that are available. So for example, for home solar, it just went from, I think it was 26%, and they've jacked it back up to 30%, right?
Wow.
If you're rewiring your house, I think there's a $4,000 tax credit in there, starting in 2023. Same with panel upgrades, same with putting in EV chargers. And then not to mention as well, the big kind of headline, which is the tax credit for EV vehicles, right? And just understanding some of the complexities of how you qualify for that tax credit. It all comes down to where the vehicle's produced, where the battery's manufactured, assembled. So it's a lot to digest, right? And it's a big document, and just understanding that can be, sifting through that can be difficult, and you really need an expert to do that.
Absolutely. So tell us about the growth of SCEIN. Yeah, like you started, around 3 years ago. Where you at now?
So yeah, I started actually 6 years ago. Expanded to the Inland Empire 3 years ago. But so originally it was actually just called the San Diego Regional Energy Innovation Network, and so it was SCEIN, and then we changed the name to Southern California Energy Innovation Network. But it's been fantastic, right? So we just getting back to kind of how our program and our model works is that I talked about the first prong, which is our program partners that are subcontractors on our grant. But because we fall under this umbrella of a trade we're an initiative of Cleantech San Diego, which is a business organization, or essentially a trade association for clean tech down here in San Diego. We've got over 130 members across the public, private, academic landscape.
Wow.
And, our secret sauce is that when we invite a company in for an intake session, we don't only have our program partners there, and that's generally about 20 folks who are subject matter experts, but we also go through, our list of over 100 technical advisors. And based on, the technology that's pitching, what stage they're at, we'll bring in those expert advisors to sit in on their intake session, and then also provide, not only feedback, but, help inform the customized service plan, which might be, customer discovery opportunities, pilot project opportunities, mentorship, referrals, even investments sometimes.
Man, that's huge. It's such a huge help to have all of those things at your fingertips,
I know. I mean, it's just being able to connect companies with the right people is one of the most challenging things to do, right? And guaranteed that if we can't connect the company with an organization that they're looking to connect with, then we know someone who does.
So if a person wanted to join the network, what's the requirements?
Yeah, great question. So, like I said earlier, we're funding stage agnostic. We don't take equity in our companies. It's a completely free program, right? But because we're funded by the Energy Commission, the organization or the startup ultimately has to provide, or potentially, have the potential to provide a benefit to California ratepayers.
Okay.
So that's really our main criteria. We also look for companies that at least are at a technology readiness level of 3. So they have some sort of lab testing done. They're working towards an MVP. But then we also take in companies that, are close to commercialization as well, have already done a pilot project. So it really depends, on if we think that we can derive value for the company. And if, when a company is kind of in our pipeline, what we'll do is my 2 colleagues, Natalie and Marty, and I will screen the company and say, okay, do we think you're going to make it past our intake session, right? And really what we're looking for there is we're not looking for reasons to say no to the companies. We're not investors. We want to make sure kind of really three things, right? So that benefit to California ratepayers, the founders are coachable, and the technology already hasn't been leapfrogged. And that's really kind of what we're keeping an eye out for.
So are you actively out recruiting, or like how are you, what's the growth? What's the growth look like?
Various, it's insane. So, I wasn't around at the start of the program, but my colleague Marty will often say, when we started this program back in 2016, we thought maybe, 7 to 8 companies, maybe 15 if we're lucky. 64 companies that have gone through the program, right? 42 active right now. It's just wild.
Wow.
I think, I don't have the data in front of me, but it was, it was like wild when we hit 15 million in follow-on funding, and now we're 300 million in follow-on funding.
That's
and
great.
if you look at I know, right? And if you look at our expenditures, including our subcontractor expenditures against the grant, it's a 50-to-1 ROI for the California Energy Commission, so it's, our companies are doing great work. And that's not us, right? That's our subcontractors. That's our Cleantech San Diego members who are providing value. And that's really the entrepreneurs themselves, just taking advantage of all the opportunities, all the funding that's out there, especially at the public, at the state and federal levels.
Yeah. So if a person is starting a clean tech company, they have some technology, do you typically hear about that pretty early? Have you ever had people reach out to you, like want to be a part of it? Tell me about that.
Yeah, we do. And we always try to meet with those people, right? So a lot of it is referrals from some of the university programs. Like we keep an eye on those. When UC Riverside is doing, a showcase, one of us will always tune in and say, okay, this person might be good for our innovation network. SDSU, UCSD, and University of San Diego run similar programs as well. So we scout companies that way. Also, too, at the federal level, the Department of Energy, the National Renewable Energy Lab run a ton of early stage programs for clean energy startups. So we've found a couple of companies that way that just happen to be in our jurisdiction, and we had no idea.
Wow.
And they're really at the early stage level. And then also as well, through the SBIR program, we look at when they have the funding announcements, we'll look at the SBIRs and say, okay, this person is in the Inland Empire, or this person is in Imperial, let's talk to them and see if they might be a fit, right?
Yeah. So what have been some growing pains? Like maybe just list one or two.
Yeah, I think, clean tech is still, for all intents and purposes, it's still a pretty early, industry. It's very early in the growth stage still. There's a lot of innovation to happen, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of, I think investors recognize that. And I feel like I hear about a new clean tech fund that pops up every week, which is great. But, a lot of these companies still don't have a pilot project, right? And we see a lot of really interesting innovations, but they haven't kind of been de-risked to where there's, an investor is ready to, put capital down. Yeah. So, a lot of, early on was just finding kind of angel groups and, seed stage investors who are, willing to invest and really, have that risk appetite. Yeah. And kind of have the thesis that would fit these early stage companies. But a lot of that's been resolved now. There's a lot of clean tech specific investment funds out there that just focus at the seed or even pre-seed stage, right? They might do safes, or they might do just seed rounds, and then angel groups as well, right? So that was an initial bit of headwind. And then the other thing I would say as well is just permitting, right? Just permitting. A lot of our companies, have a hard tech component they need to deploy in order to, demonstrate it. They need to, in order to demonstrate it and de-risk the technology. And permitting can often be especially in California, it can be a bit of a challenge to navigate.
Yeah, and that's mostly deep tech companies. Are you saying mostly deep tech?
Deep, yeah. With a deep tech with like maybe a hardware component, right? Yeah. There's so many new innovations coming up, whether it be, electrolyzers, new types of electrolyzers. It's how do we permit these things, right? Or when you're putting in EV chargers, it's still, putting in EV chargers at, on public land is, it's still a process. It's a long process.
It's pretty hard.
Right? So
is it a difficult process right now?
I think it's getting better, but depending on which permitting, departments you're working with, it can be a challenge, right? And things can get held up. So.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us, Zac, what are the current needs of SCEIN? What are you seeing? What's the growth?
Capital, right? The growth in capital is the lifeblood of our companies. Whether you like it or not, if a company has a great innovation, if they don't have the money to grow that innovation, then they're unfortunately it's going to be constrained, right?
Yeah.
So we're always, and because we're funding stage agnostic, like I said earlier, we have companies that are really early stage, at the seed stage, all the way up to companies that might be looking to go public. So we've really got to maintain a robust and large network of, investors that so we're always looking to network with investors, just to make sure that our companies are on their radar, and that when our companies are raising money, that we know who to connect them with, right? Because all of these, they all are clean tech investors, or big strategics like BP Ventures, or Shell, Schneider, that have venture arms, but they all have different theses. What they're willing to invest in, what stage they invest in. So just making sure that we do the matchmaking there, making sure that when we connect our companies with with an investment fund, we're not wasting, both of their time. We want to make sure that it's a good match.
That's a good match.
Capital is always, but we've seen so much funding come down from the state level, but in the last 2 years at the federal level as well. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, I've been we write about it on Startempire Wire. So every time we see a new fund come in, or a new grant from the state, or there's a lot of money being invested in clean tech energy, and like here, like Southern California, I think probably. Do you know the stats? Are there the most clean tech startups in this region, as opposed to like other parts of California?
I haven't done that analysis. Obviously, there's a lot coming out of Silicon Valley, but we're a great innovation hub as well, right? In terms of the Inland Empire alone, so we have the active companies right now, 7 come from the Inland Empire. So that's San Bernardino and Riverside. It's fantastic. And, I was just looking at the data in the last 6 months. Those companies have raised $4 million in both public and private funding, which is huge, right?
That's huge, yeah.
In total, those companies have raised $18 million. Just those 7 Inland Empire companies have raised $18 million. I think about 10 million of that is public.
Wow.
So,
all right. So
what funding?
Yeah. What's the variety of different clean tech startups that are a part of what you do? Like, give us because there's so many different technologies, but what's the variety? Give us a little bit of an understanding.
We have a big sandbox that we play in. So we have everything from renewable energy generation. We've got companies that do wind. We have a portable wind turbine company. Okay. Yeah, geothermal energy, which is really hot. Geothermal, which is really hot right now, in lithium extraction in the Salton Sea in Imperial County. And then we have energy efficiency companies that are looking to work with the utilities to improve just home energy efficiency, right? Just to really smooth out the duck curve. And then we have companies that do EV infrastructure, companies that do cybersecurity for the grid. We've got a quantum company. So it really varies, right? And I love it.
That's huge. So regardless of what area of clean tech they're in, then you guys, except for EVs.
Except for EVs. If you're the next Elon Musk or RJ from Rivian, that's one thing that we don't do. Now we do have a.
Is there a reason? Is it too risky? Why? What is it?
It's just DEC funding doesn't cover that
Okay,
for us.
okay,
So
okay.
we do everything around EVs though. So like EV infrastructure, we have a number of charging companies. We obviously have Paul from Kidget. We have
Yeah.
a company that has a smart splitter for home EV charging. So,
Oh, cool.
you can plug into you can plug two EV chargers into one 240-volt outlet, which is super helpful because you don't need to get an
That's
electrician
helpful.
out,
Yeah.
which can be expensive. Yeah, and then one of the really interesting companies that we've got right now, which actually came to us through the Inland Empire, is a company called Xtelligent, and they are doing, they're optimizing, really interesting. So they are optimizing, traffic. So what they do is they pair kind of big data, but then with also sensors at traffic lights to really improve the efficiency of traffic.
I'm trying to think if I can remember who that is for Xtelligent. I don't know if, I can't remember.
Yeah, his name is
right
Mike. Mike Lim is the president of the company, but super interesting technology. They're actually executing a multi-million-dollar Department of Energy grant right now with Mercedes and the city of Long Beach in the Inland Empire. So really what they're trying to do is optimize that traffic from Long Beach, where those those 16-wheelers come out to meet the port and then go to the Inland Empire into all the shipping warehouses, right? So you can imagine just how much congestion there is in that corridor. And then as a result of that, there's a lot of diesel particulate in the air. There's a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, and there's a huge impact on the communities around that, right? So it's really interesting to see, a technology that can optimize traffic.
That's pretty cool.
Be able to help reduce. Yeah, so it's really interesting.
All right, short-term goals. In the next 2 months, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to get done?
Yeah, so it's conference season right now. So we just had down here in San Diego, we just had a big showcase on November 9th. We have our Southern California Energy Innovation Network showcase. I think we have 9 companies that are going to be presenting. We're going to be inviting a number of investors to kind of showcase these technologies. But then we're going to be heading to a couple up in San Jose. We're going to Palm Springs just to really network and meet new investors and advocate on behalf of our companies to make sure that, these companies in the Inland Empire, these companies in Imperial, these companies in San Diego County are being showcased, and people know that there's some really phenomenal technology coming out of this area, and it's not just all Silicon Valley.
That's cool. So
yeah.
Number one, you're going to build those connections and be a part of these conferences. Is there another short-term goal?
Yeah, I mean, we are, one of the challenges of companies have that I was talking a little bit earlier about is just getting these first pilot projects to de-risk and just kind of validate their technologies. So one thing we want to do is just partner with more organizations to create more of a formal process for setting up pilot projects. For our companies in the Southern California Energy Innovation Network, whether that be, a solar deployment or whether it be, an electrolyzer deployment for green hydrogen. We just want to make sure that, they have those opportunities. And when they have those opportunities, they're not going, other places. They're not going up to Northern California. They're not going to Texas. They're doing it in Southern California, right? That's what we want to see.
Right.
So.
Awesome. So keeping the companies here, keeping them local. Okay.
Keeping them local, but but making sure that they're nationally and internationally known as well.
Nationally, internationally known while being local. Yeah, we need to put this region on the map.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's what a lot of people don't realize too is that when everyone thinks of when they think of venture capital funding, they think of obviously Silicon Valley, they think of New York, they think of Boston, they think of Austin, but San Diego is 5th in the nation in terms of venture capital funding, right? It's a great place. We've got some great institutions down here. UC Riverside, up the Inland Empire as well, derives a lot of value. And they've got, what Scott and his team have been doing with the Riverside Angel Conference is a huge driver of that, right? So just making sure that's on the map. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. One of the things that I noticed is that the Inland Empire, um, Southern California in general, seems to not be like known for tech. You know, and the Inland Empire is a little bit worse. It's a little bit worse as far as the word getting out. So it's cool, to have you on the podcast to help you get the word out. The whole purpose behind Start Empire Wire is to try to help spread the word as well. Um, so yeah, I appreciate you for coming on.
Yeah,
Tell us,
and
yeah,
just
go
one
ahead.
thing on one quick note on that is that we are we're located down in San Diego. Cleantech San Diego is you know seen as an initiative of Cleantech San Diego, but um, in kind of contrast to Cleantech San Diego, we don't just cover San Diego, right? We're in the Inland
Yes,
Empire. So we recognize that we are not we don't have boots on the ground out there. We don't know a lot of we don't know a lot of the key contacts. We don't know a lot of the key initiatives going on out there. So we really rely on UC Riverside, the Inland
yeah,
Empire Economic Partnership, folks like yourself, just to make sure that, when there's a new company that's popping up, and then subsequently when we have companies in the program, we're connecting them with the right people in the Inland Empire, right?
right,
Because,
right,
there's some great institutions out there.
yeah. So you say you're going to Santa Barbara. It's coming up soon.
Uh, San Jose
San
and
Jose
Palm Springs, yeah.
and Palm
Yeah,
Springs. Okay,
yeah,
so that's Palm Springs is Inland Empire.
yeah.
So
So we've got the Cleantech Forum coming up there, which is a great event. It's run by, not to be confused with Cleantech San Diego, but Cleantech Group has been around for I think 20 years now.
oh wow,
And it's a great organization. They do, I think, 3 big conferences every year. Cleantech North America, Cleantech Europe, and I think Cleantech Asia as well. And the North American one just happens to be in Palm Springs, and it's
wow.
really good. You get, I think they cap it at 400 people. It's a lot of great investors, and then a lot of great startups as well. So
That's
it's
huge.
a really cool event. Yeah.
All right. What about the next 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years? Tell us a little bit about your long-term goals. What you shooting for?
Yeah, I think so. Our, when this grant, the EPIC grant was only supposed to go up until 2021.
Okay.
And the programs, not just ours, but the other 3 innovation clusters as well, have been so successful that the California Energy Commission just decided to extend and follow on that funding for another 5 years.
That's great.
So that takes our horizon for the SCEIN program after 2023. And of
Okay.
course, we are not going to let it die there,
Right.
just because of the value it's providing to entrepreneurs. So, we'll look for new, whether that be public or private, we'll look for new ways of funding the program.
Yes.
One of the goals of mine is to eventually maybe look at, creating, and it won't be me because I don't have the expertise to do it, but, bringing together a group of individuals who can kind of create a fund that can help invest
Fun.
in some of these companies, right? Just to help really, and thoughtful, and we want to do it thoughtfully as well. So, we recognize a real need at the, when they hit that technology valley of death, right? Which is when they really need capital
Hmm.
to build that minimum viable product. And we want to create an early stage fund to help them support, that. So that'll be a goal. And then just continuing to make sure that we advocate for these SoCal companies and for these SCEIN companies. Last year we went to the NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab Industry Growth Forum,
Okay.
and there's 40 companies that pitch at that event, and 4 out of the 6 companies that won awards were companies that were in our innovation network, and one of
That's
those
awesome.
was Helicoid as well. I think,
Helicoid. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
and Helicoid. So I mean, this phenomenal company coming out of the Palm Desert took home the NREL IGF Award for early stage outstanding venture. So that
Yeah.
was phenomenal. I mean, my jaw dropped when we had not only Helicoid but 2 of our other companies as well take home the awards. So
That's amazing. Like Helicoid, we just had them on the interview, and I was pretty fascinated about the technology, and they're a part of SCEIN, right?
exactly.
That's cool. I love it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just Chad's technology is so interesting, right? The whole
It
biomimicry with the mantis
biomimicry.
shrimp, it
That's
blows my mind.
it's
It's the
some
funnest part of my
bad.
job.
That's some badass technology, man. I'm like, that's cool, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lots of cool applications as well. So
Okay, cool. So, the startup goals, I think you told me 3 years. Maybe, did you tell me 5 and 10 or no?
not 5 and 10 yet. So,
Okay.
but five, I would say 5 to 10. Um, we have a massive biotech and life sciences industry here in San Diego.
Mm,
And it's crazy, right? Like you just go up and you look at the amount of investment, and you can tell by but just these campuses, like the J&J, Johnson and Johnson campus. We
yeah.
just did an event there, and they're beautiful, right? We want to be kind of where, and I think we'll get there, right? But we
Yeah.
want to be where kind of
Biotech.
biotech is now, right? We want to be, Cleantech San Diego, and subsequently the Southern California Energy Innovation Network. Like we really, in Southern California, we can be a powerhouse of clean energy innovations.
Yeah, I know. So biotech, is that falls under clean energy innovations?
Not biotech, no. So that's a
Okay.
lot of pharmaceuticals,
Okay.
cancer research, different
Right.
therapeutics, drug discovery, and
You,
a lot of money in that.
we've got a cluster of biotech startups here in Marietta. You know about that, right?
I've heard, yeah.
Okay. So if you guys are ever trying to get into the biotech region, there's a cluster over here for sure.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there's several biotech companies in the incubator in Marietta. Okay, what about 10 years?
10 years. That's a great question.
I know it's a long way off.
It's a long way out, but I think in 10 years, what is it that our, by 2045, we're looking to completely decarbonize the grid and have 100% renewable energy on the grid.
That's what they're shooting for.
That's what they're shooting for, right? But I think in California, and I don't know the exact date, I think we've upped that date. But
Okay.
I would like to see in 10 years, I would like to see California completely off natural gas and coal.
Okay.
We've set an aggressive target to have no new internal combustion engine vehicles sold.
Wow. Yeah.
But in
That's
10
that's
years,
that's real controversial, man.
yeah,
But you
yeah,
believe the technology will be fully advanced enough to get it there in the supply chains and everything?
I think so. I mean, I think
Okay.
you're already seeing like how many big auto OEMs have announced that they're going to be building battery manufacturing
Right.
facilities across the
Right.
states, right? And I think that's all as a result of policy announcements, right?
That's true.
So, California sets these aggressive goals to have no new internal combustion engine vehicles sold. And, the companies have no choice but to follow suit. And it
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
accelerates, it just accelerates the electrification of vehicles, right?
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
and there's a number of really cool, not just from the auto OEMs, but there's a number of startups out there that are working on, EVs and hydrogen vehicles as
Yes.
well. Yeah.
No, there's several here in Riverside, and so like there's a I'm not there's several battery startups and people who are coming from UCR who are PhDs and they're doing battery technology startups as well. I don't know if you've connected with a
Yeah.
couple of them.
Yeah. So we've actually got a great company that came to us through UC Riverside called SCEIN. And
Okay.
they've got
Yep.
this
Sea
really
line.
cool silicon additive that goes
Yes.
into batteries to make them, more efficient, charge faster,
Right.
and just improve their overall energy density. And what I love about that technology is that a lot of these new battery companies that are coming online are looking at technologies or chemistries where you have to completely change the way you manufacture the batteries, which is really difficult, right? It's a
Yeah.
long process, right? So, at least 5 years, probably closer to 6 or 7 to get the funding to build, do all the testing and then start, building batteries that are ready to go into Teslas and into other electric vehicles.
Right.
But what I love about SCEIN is they've got, they don't, it's not a big change to the manufacturing process. Should they be able to commercialize their technology, they've got, they've got this drop-in additive ready. So it's an innovative way to approach efficiencies in batteries.
It really is innovative, and if you're listening to the podcast, you don't know about Sea Lion. They were part of the Innovation Month. They were one of, I don't know if they actually won here in Riverside County. They were part of one of the startups who pitched. I think they may have won. They may have won.
I think they.
No, they
I think
won
they
second
did.
place. They won second place.
At the Riverside Angel Conference.
Yeah, they won at the Angel Conference as well. Yeah, so that's they got a 40 grand check, $40,000 check, which is pretty cool.
That's always helpful, especially as an early stage company, right? So
yeah. All right, so tell us, how can people find you? How can people get in touch with you if they want to become a part of SCEIN, or if they just want to connect with you on an investment level or anything like that? How do they get in touch with you, Zac?
Yeah, I mean, they can, and you can share my email. They can shoot me an email. You can always go to our website to learn more, which is cleantechsandiego.org/SCEIN. That's got all the information there. And I just, for any energy innovations out there, any energy entrepreneurs, even if you're early stage, you're a little too early for our program, especially from the Inland Empire, we'd love to connect with you, hear what you're working on. And if you're not a great fit for our program, then we can connect you with folks who can lend you some expertise and help you get ready for our program.
Awesome. Yeah, we wrote a profile about you guys on the Startempire Wire website a few months back. Now we got this interview, we'll connect it to that as well. So, hey,
Fantastic.
if they search for you guys, they might find Startempire Wire first.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's great.
Awesome. So thank you for coming on, Zac. I really appreciate your time. Want to honor that, and thank you for joining us, man.
Thank you, Varys. The pleasure's all mine and the honor's all mine. So keep up the great work. And hopefully next time we connect, we'll have another 5 or 6 companies from the Inland Empire in our program.
That'd be huge.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the Founders Podcast. We publish this podcast 2 times per week on Tuesday and Thursday. Join us. Watch the podcast on the days we publish. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like this video. Subscribe by hitting the bell. And if you're not listening or watching on YouTube, we're on every major podcast platform. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day. Peace.